This is the Wet Lunch on the High Seas podcast with historian Stephen Ujifusa. Business, history, and culture with a nautical twist. This is historian Stephen Ujifusa here in northeastern Massachusetts. I am pleased to announce that I will be starting a new project of Tradewinds History LLC. This is an official history of the Ames family. The Ames family plays a large and outsized role in the industrial, artistic, and social history of the Boston area. They were also intimately involved with Harvard College. And the Ameses made their fortune in shovel making and eventually branched out into railroads and real estate. And the shovel making operation, their huge shovel factory, is located just across the street right here. It is now condominiums. But by the late 19th century, Northeastern, this village outside of Boston, was a hive of industrial manufacturing activity. And the Ameses inhabited a cluster of estates surrounding the shovel factory. But Frederick Lothrop Ames, who was a third generation of shovel makers, he also became intimately involved with the railroad industry. And in fact, he held directorships in about 40 railroads. And his father, Oliver Ames, and Uncle Oakes Ames were the builders of the Union Pacific Railroad and of the Transcontinental Railroad. In fact, they were tapped by President Lincoln to complete the Transcontinental Railroad, which was finished in 1867. But Frederick Lothrop Ames was a man who, on one hand, was an extremely shrewd businessman, operator. He was also the largest holder of real estate in the city of Boston. But in addition to his mansion in Commonwealth Avenue, he kept a residence here in Northeastern close to the shovel factory and his extended family. And he and his family decided by the 1870s to give a series of tremendous architectural gifts to the city. And arguably their greatest legacy is their architectural one. They are the biggest patrons of the architect Henry Hobson Richardson. Henry Hobson Richardson came to Boston from New Orleans. He studied at Harvard College. And after graduating from Harvard College, he enrolled at the prestigious École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. He was one of the first Americans to enroll at that school for artistic professions. And he was a close contemporary of the architect Richard Morris Hunt, who was actually the first American to study there. But Richardson first opened up shop in New York, but eventually moved to Boston to take advantage of his Harvard connections. And he developed a style that today we know as Romanesque revival or Richardsonian Romanesque. And this style became extremely popular in the 1870s and 1880s when he was at the height of his architectural fame. And Frederick Lothrop Ames was such a huge admirer of Richardson's work that he commissioned several buildings in Northeastern from Richardson. Among them are the Ames Free Library and the Oakes Ames Memorial Hall. And these were civic buildings. Ames also commissioned the almost proto-modern Ames Gatehouse, which was the entrance to his estate at Langwater. And also in my father's home state of Wyoming, he commissioned the Ames Monument by Richardson, which is almost a kind of step pyramid structure in the middle of the Wyoming Badlands to commemorate the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. But this is a really exciting project for me. It combines New England history, it combines architectural history and industrial history. And it's great to be back in the Boston area. And also, as a side note, Frederick Ames and other members of the Ames family commissioned Frederick Law Olmsted to design much of the landscaping in Northeastern and of their surrounding estates. So these are two magnificent buildings that have been immaculately kept up and are some of the finest surviving buildings of Henry Hobson Richardson. Other examples include, of course, the famous Trinity Church in Boston off Copley Square and Harvard Seaver Hall. So this is historian Stephen Ujifusa. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Wet Lunch on the High Seas podcast with historian Stephen Ujifusa. Thank you for listening. You can expect new episodes every week. To subscribe to the Wet Lunch on the High Seas podcast, visit steveujifusa.substack.com.